The ceiling in hospital rooms always looks the same. Neutral, speckled, too clean. I don't remember what time it was, just that it was quiet enough to hear my own pulse through the IV line. My name is Jenna Morgan. I'm 31. I used to teach second grade before I moved to Boulder and started working as a freelance editor. 3 years ago, I married Ethan. He's the kind of person who fixes squeaky cabinets without being asked who knows the exact amount of sugar I put in my coffee. And until 20 minutes ago, we were expecting our first child. Her name was Isla. She wasn't due for months, but we'd already painted her room lavender. We had a mobile above the crib that played soft piano lullabies. Ethan said the melody reminded him of snow. I was 18 weeks along when the bleeding started. I knew before the monitor, before the ultrasound tech frowned, before the doctor came in with his voice full of "unfortunately." I just knew. They let me rest in the room after. I think they assumed someone was coming, but I hadn't told anyone yet. Only Ethan. He had gone to fill out paperwork. He asked if I wanted him to call my parents. I said no. I wanted to do it myself. I needed my mother's voice. Not for advice, just something that sounded like home. I called her from the hospital bed. 1 ring, 2. She picked up. Her voice was cheerful, almost too bright. "Hi, sweetie. Everything okay?" I didn't answer right away. My throat locked. My fingers curled tighter around the edge of the blanket. Then I said it. "I lost the baby." A pause. Not long, but enough. Then she said, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Can I call you back? We're at Avery's gender reveal. The confetti cannons are about to go off." I blinked. I thought I misheard her. "What?" "You know we've been planning this for weeks. Avery wanted it outdoors, sunset lighting, all of that. Everyone's here. I'll call you right after. Okay, love you." Click. That was it. The phone screen went black in my hand. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't feel anything at all. Just stillness. And that was the moment I realized grief doesn't stop the world. It just stops yours. Ethan returned a few minutes later with a paper cup of water and his jacket over his arm. He took one look at my face, and whatever was in his hand fell to the floor. "What happened?" he asked. I just looked at him. I didn't even whisper. I mouthed the words. "She said she's at the party. We found out we were pregnant on a Wednesday. It had snowed that morning in Boulder, but the sun came out by noon. Ethan was in the kitchen making tea. I walked in holding the test, my hands shaking my face somewhere between terrified and overjoyed. He looked at me once and smiled like he already knew. We didn't tell anyone at first, just us in the quiet. At night, we lay in bed and whispered about names. Isla came early. I don't remember how or why. It just fit. Soft, brave. Already hers. I started collecting little things, books about clouds, a pair of white socks with yellow ducks. Ethan ordered a humidifier shaped like a whale. We spent one Sunday afternoon hanging curtains in her room, then sat on the floor eating sandwiches, imagining what she might be like. When I finally told my parents, my mom, Diane, sounded prepared. "That's wonderful," she said. "Such a blessing. Oh, and Avery's pregnant too. You two are practically twins." Avery is my younger sister, by 2 years. She lives in San Diego, about 20 minutes from my parents. She's what you'd call bigger than life. She hosts live streams, sells skincare, and once went viral for a baby naming video that got over 4 million views. She found out she was pregnant 6 weeks after I did, first baby for her too. From that moment, the spotlight moved, not slowly, immediately. Diane called to ask if I had any ultrasound pictures, but not of me, of Avery. She told me about party themes, signature drinks, balloon vendors. "I was thinking pink and gold," she said once, "but not too much shimmer. Avery wants something elegant. I said I could help make the favors." She didn't hear me, or maybe she did, but she didn't pause. Ethan noticed it first. One night, while folding tiny clothes, he looked over and said, "You know, you don't have to keep trying to earn it. Earn what I asked, even though I already knew." Their excitement. "This baby already matters." I nodded, but I didn't believe him. Not fully. I kept thinking if I showed up for them cheerful, generous, supportive, they would eventually look at me again. Not through me. At me. I thought they'd remember I was having a baby too, that Isla was real, that I was still their daughter. And even if Avery's party was perfect, maybe someone would ask if I had picked out a crib, or if Isla had a lullaby yet. They didn't. It started with a stain the size of a dime. We had just finished dinner. Ethan was in the kitchen rinsing dishes, humming something from an old playlist. I stood up to take my plate over and felt it. Not pain, just something. I looked down. A spot. Dark red. Sharp against pale cotton. My first thought wasn't fear. It was denial. Maybe it's normal. Maybe it's just the stretching, the shifting. I'd read about this. Some women bleed and go full term. I went to the bathroom and sat on the closed toilet lid for almost 15 minutes, just breathing, counting, hoping it would stop. It didn't. Ethan found me there, my hands shaking, holding a towel that was already too wet. He didn't ask questions, just grabbed the keys, helped me into the car, and drove like someone holding their breath. The emergency room lights were too bright. Everything smelled like sanitizer and something older metal and waiting. The nurse at the desk asked questions in a calm, even voice. How many weeks? When did it start? Any cramping? First pregnancy, I answered everything with a nod, or a whisper, or nothing at all. They brought me back quickly, hooked me to monitors, took blood, asked me to change into a gown. Ethan held my shoes while I did. His hands wouldn't stop fidgeting. The ultrasound technician didn't speak. She moved the wand, pressed, tilted her head, frowned. I'll be right back. It took 12 minutes. I counted. 12 minutes of white noise and cold gel and Ethan squeezing my hand like he was afraid I'd float away. Then the doctor came in. Young, crisp, kind in that practiced way that says he's done this before. There's no heartbeat, he said. I'm sorry. That's the part people always remember in movies. The cry, the scream, the collapse. But grief doesn't always perform. Sometimes it just sits. Heavy. I nodded, like he'd told me the weather. He explained what would happen next, what they recommended. He said words like incomplete viability procedure. I didn't retain any of it. They moved me to a quieter room, gave me a blanket, offered water. I kept looking at the IV bag, watching the bubbles rise like little lives I couldn't hold on to. Ethan sat beside me in one of those hard plastic chairs. He had my phone in his hand, thumb hovering. Do you want me to call someone? He asked. I shook my head. Then after a while, I took the phone back. My hands were cold. My throat burned. I'll call, I said. Just Mom. I think I still believed that if I said the words to her, the pain would feel more real, and less mine alone. We came home the next morning. Ethan carried the hospital bag. I carried nothing. The nursery door stayed closed. Neither of us mentioned it. Grief doesn't announce itself. It doesn't cry on cue. Sometimes it just settles into the corners of a room and waits. I sat on the couch for most of the day. I don't remember if I moved. Ethan brought me soup. It got cold. He sat beside me reading headlines he didn't care about just to fill the quiet. That night, I turned my phone back on. 17 unread messages, 3 missed calls, none from my mother. I didn't open any of them. Instead, without thinking, I opened Instagram. It took a second to load. Then, there it was. Avery stood in the middle of a sunlit lawn wearing a blush pink dress that caught the wind just right. My mother Diane was behind her holding a mason jar filled with pink lemonade. Confetti rained down around them, shimmering pink strips caught in the air like laughter that didn't belong to me. Everyone was smiling, clapping, reaching for their phones. The caption read, "It's a girl. Baby Sutton coming this spring. Couldn't be happier." I stared at the screen until it blurred. Ethan was sitting beside me. He didn't look over. He didn't have to. They posted it last night, I said quietly, while we were still in the hospital. He said nothing, just reached for my hand. I let him, but my fingers didn't tighten back. They knew I whispered, and they still went ahead with the party. In the days that followed, I moved through the house like a visitor in someone else's life. I stopped opening drawers, stopped trying to eat. The lavender walls of the nursery seemed to hum behind the closed door. I could almost hear the mobile over the crib playing the lullaby I'd chosen weeks ago, but I never opened it. 10 days after we came home, my phone buzzed again. A message from my mother. "Hi, sweetie. Just checking in. If you're not going to use Isla's things, Avery could really use the crib and bassinet. She's starting her nursery this week and it would help a lot." I read it once, then again, then a third time. Each time something settled lower in my chest. Not just sadness, not just hurt, something colder. Not a single sentence asking how I was. Not even Isla's name. Just a quiet repurposing of a life that had barely begun. Ethan read it too. I didn't need to explain. He stood, walked to the kitchen, came back empty-handed. We should give them something, he said. Just not what they asked for. I looked at him. His voice was calm, steady. But behind it, there was something else. Not anger, conviction. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat up in bed, staring at the hallway, the door to the nursery just barely visible in the dark. Ethan was beside me, his breathing steady. He hadn't asked again about the message. He didn't need to. My thoughts circled quiet but sharp. They didn't ask about Isla, not once. Just the crib, the bassinet, as if the only thing left of her was furniture to be reassigned. I got up and walked down the hall, slowly. I didn't turn on the light. The lavender door creaked open. The air inside felt untouched. Still, everything was exactly where we had left it. The books on the shelf, the whale-shaped humidifier, the mobile above the crib that played that soft, looping lullaby Ethan liked so much. I sat on the floor in the middle of the room, knees drawn in. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. Just listened. I think I wanted the silence to do something to rise up or crack open or make space for something new. Instead, it just settled around me. After a while, Ethan appeared in the doorway. He didn't say anything, just walked in barefoot and sat beside me. His shoulder touched mine. His presence felt like a question I didn't have to answer. "I don't want to give them Isla's things," I said quietly. "I know," he replied, "but I want them to know she was real." He nodded. "Then let's show them." We didn't pack that night. We just sat there. The next morning, I took out a small plain box from the hall closet, one we'd used for holiday gifts a few years back. Nothing fancy, no ribbon, just clean flat sides, like it had been waiting. I lined the bottom with tissue paper, not pink, not blue, just white. Then I opened Isla's drawer. The hospital bracelet came first, mine and hers, tiny, still looped, still marked with numbers and letters that meant she existed. Next, a pair of socks, white with little yellow ducks. I had bought them on a good day, one of those afternoons where hope felt safe again. Then the ultrasound photo, her profile so clear, her tiny nose, her curled fingers. I had stared at that image on the way home from the appointment, grinning like a fool. I slid it into a small frame and placed it carefully inside. And finally, the letter. I had started it 3 times and torn it up each time, but this one I kept. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't even long. Her name was Isla. She was wanted. She was loved. She mattered. You didn't come. You didn't ask. You chose a party. This box is all you'll get from me. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm done pretending I wasn't broken when you looked away. I folded it in half and laid it on top of everything else. Ethan closed the lid, taped the edges. We didn't wrap it. Didn't label it. Just a box. Quiet. Heavy. We didn't say much the rest of the day. There was nothing left to explain. Everything I had carried, every ache, every silence, every imagined conversation I never got to have was inside that box now. Not for revenge, for truth, for Isla. We didn't call ahead. I didn't want to hear her voice. Didn't want to give them time to rehearse anything that might sound like kindness. It was late morning when we pulled into the driveway. The sky was clear, that quiet kind of blue that always made me think of summer trips as a kid. I remember those days. My mother used to pack sandwiches and sunscreen and call us her little explorers. Funny how easily some memories fade and others refuse to leave. Ethan parked the car engine still running. He looked at me once, not asking, not prompting, just making sure I was ready. I nodded, then opened the door. The box was in my arms, light in weight but not in meaning. I walked slowly up the path to the front door. The wind moved through the trees, soft and unbothered. I rang the bell. A few seconds passed, then the door opened. My mother stood there in yoga pants and a loose sweatshirt, her hair pulled back like she'd just come from a casual morning stretch. Her expression lifted when she saw me, surprised, maybe even warm for a second. "Jenna, I wasn't expecting." I held out the box. "These are the nursery items you asked for." She looked down, then back at me. "Oh, thank you. I know Avery will appreciate." I didn't wait for her to finish. I turned, walked down the steps, and got back into the car. Ethan pulled away without asking what happened. I didn't look back, but in my mind, I saw her standing there, the box still in her hands, not knowing what was inside. Not yet. We didn't hear anything for 2 days. No calls, no messages, no questions. The silence didn't feel heavy. It felt clean, like a room that had finally been emptied of noise. I didn't wonder if they'd opened the box. That part wasn't mine to carry anymore. On the third evening, just as Ethan and I were halfway through a documentary we weren't really watching, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in weeks, Dad. Not Diane, Russell. He rarely called me even before all of this. Most of our conversations had been through my mother. He was the quieter one. The one who always handed the phone off midway, saying, "I'll let you girls catch up." I let it ring twice. Ethan looked at me. I nodded, then answered. "Hi, Dad." There was a pause. Not long, but not rushed either. Then he said, "Jenna." His voice was different, softer, not rehearsed. We opened the box. I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to help him through the silence. "I didn't know her name," he said next. "Isla? It's beautiful." "She was," I replied. Another pause. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. "I'm not looking for anything I said. Not anymore." He cleared his throat the way he always did when something didn't sit right. "Your mother," she cried when she saw the socks. I felt my breath catch, not in grief but in surprise. Somehow I hadn't pictured tears. I had imagined silence, maybe even discomfort. But not that. "She said she didn't know you were hurting that deeply," he added. I kept my voice steady. "She did," I said. "She just didn't want to deal with it." He didn't argue. That more than anything told me he finally understood. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "We both are." I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. I didn't say thank you, because I wasn't grateful that it had taken this much for them to finally see. "I needed you to see her," I told him, not just as something sad that happened to me, but as someone who was real, who existed. Another silence. But this one didn't feel like avoidance. It felt like space, like he was letting the truth settle. "We're not taking the crib," he said. "She doesn't need it. It belongs to Isla." That was the first thing he got right. When I hung up, I stayed still, not shaken, not angry, just still. Ethan looked over. What did he say? I met his eyes. They opened it, and they cried. Ethan exhaled, then pulled me closer, and for the first time in weeks, I let him. Later that night, I opened the nursery door. I hadn't been in there since the box. Since I folded the letter and closed the lid and decided that silence could speak louder than begging to be seen. But something had shifted. Not fixed, not healed, just different. The air in the room felt softer somehow, like the grief had taken a breath too. I walked in barefoot, my fingers brushing the edge of the crib. It was still made up the way we left it, sheets smooth, blanket-folded mobile, gently swaying with the air I brought in. I sat in the rocking chair. For a while I didn't move. Then I stood and opened the drawer beside it. Inside was a small frame, the same ultrasound I had placed in the box, but in a second copy. Isla's profile, clear, sharp, hers. I took it out, wiped a bit of dust from the glass, and set it on the shelf above the crib. Next to it I lit a candle. No scent, no label. Just a small flame that flickered quietly like it knew how to be present without asking for attention. Then I reached into the bottom drawer and pulled out the last thing, a small gold nameplate. We'd ordered it early, probably too early, back when we thought we had time. It said Isla Grace. Just that. No dates, no explanation. I held it for a moment, then mounted it on the wall right above the shelf, right above her. When I stepped back, the room didn't feel like a grave. It felt like a memory, one I was allowed to keep. Ethan stood in the doorway watching me. He didn't say anything. Then softly, "How do you feel?" I looked around, at the frame, the flame, the name. Like I finally said her name loud enough, I replied that someone heard. We didn't speak after that. We didn't need to. Some stories don't end with apologies. They don't end with reunions or realizations or a dinner where everyone suddenly understands. Some stories just end, and in that space, something else begins. A few days later, I got a message from Avery. I didn't know until they opened the box. "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Maybe I will someday, but not now. Because when I was bleeding in a hospital bed, she was throwing confetti. I don't blame her for being happy. I blame her for pretending not to notice when I disappeared. And as for my parents, they never asked for the crib again, and I never offered.